This weekend on the original Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House.
I'm Chris Battaglia, head football coach at Aquinas. I'll tell you why Section 5 football is in such a great place in our area.
And I'm John DiTullio, reminiscing about one of the all-time greats.
And I'm Mike Catalana. I'll tell you why it'll be a very different goodbye for two of those greats.
Now Bill Pucko, J.J. Watt visits town this week. Join us on the original Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. The Brew House was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewHouse.com. Hello everyone and welcome to the original Rochester Press Box presented by the mighty Genesee Brew House. We are on location at the Brew House this week and it's my pleasure to introduce John DiTullio.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here, Billy.
Really Thank you very much.
It really is.
Mike Catalana, 13 WHAM News, co-hosting.
Good. Place looks great too. Christmas decorations.
It really does. He kind of turned it around a little bit. And it's our distinct pleasure to welcome in the coach of the state champion and 9 times out of the last 10-year Section 5 champion Aquinas football team, Chris Battaglia. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, you know, there was no escaping that debate. I don't know why it came up when it did, but it seems like it's dominated this season, the whole private versus public school. You were the head coach at Penfield. You were an assistant coach with a very successful Webster team on the public school side, 10 years now at Aquinas. Is there any middle ground that would make everybody happy in this debate?
I don't know if there's a middle ground. I think it's a really tough topic to study, but you know, in a way, I can see where public school people come across and think what we should do and what we shouldn't do, but you know, I agree with them if we do everything they say we do. If we recruit and give money to athletes and all that, we shouldn't be in. But we don't do any of that. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes in the next 5 years.
Where do you think it'll go?
I have a feeling it's going to split, and you're going to have Catholic playoffs and you're going to have public playoffs. That's the way I see it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen because unless they put us all in the top class and let us all play, and you know, some of the smaller Catholic schools can't go up in the top class because they can't compete.
I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame. I think the sport is more interesting. You know, in this case, because Chris's team has been so good that they are the one everybody is shooting for, I think it's elevated the play of these other teams. And in my opinion, I don't think it's the kids as much. I think it's the parents and I think it's the administrators because they see a winning program and they want to win. Because like Jeff DeVeronica did a piece in the paper and he was talking about, does it mean that much to the kids? Yeah, I think the kids want to win, but I think kids want to compete at whatever the team is to play against. And I think the sport is better. Look at how much, as big as you won the States, man, you struggled with Rush. You struggled with Hilton. These are good. Pittsford's a good team. I think it's elevated all of them, and I think it would be a shame if they didn't play each other.
Johnny, you, again, I go to you because you take the temperature of the community every day. When this came up, you couldn't stop it.
It was nonstop phone calls. What happened a year ago, the unfortunate incident with Aquinas, the venom when you mention Aquinas, not from students, it's administrators and parents who called my show. I think Aquinas is great for Section 5. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, where a cathedral prep, like Aquinas, you wanted to play the best. We, as a student, as someone who played, I wanted to play prep. I don't care if they had an unfair advantage or whatever it was. You wanted to play the best. I'm with Mike. This is all about parents. This is about jealousy. This is about administrators at other schools. I think it would be a crime if you took McQuaid, Bishop Kearney, and Aquinas out of the playoffs.
When you were at Penfield, did you feel any of that public school resentment?
I've never felt any of it anywhere. I mean, I played at Aquinas when I was in high school. We played Rush. Coach Kleeman played us every year. We played Fairport as a regular season. If I had my way, they'd put us right in the league and let us play, and whoever was the best team is the best team. I mean, my hardest point is they say we have no boundaries. Well, if we don't give scholarships, our boundary is $10,000. You have to pay it to come to school. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, and the other part about it, too, is when you look at what they do, and we're not just saying this because Chris is here. John and I say it almost every time we talk about it. Coaches and programs are what draw a kid to play. If he had a lousy team at Aquinas, kids would not want to go play there, depending on their academics and the money, whatever other issue to get there. They are a very good program. We've talked about McQuaid basketball before. McQuaid basketball has been great at times. Hasn't been that great. Maybe it's coming back around again. I think that is what draws a kid, in addition to the school itself.
Listen, like you said, our 2 toughest games of the year were Hilton and Rush. And if we're 22nd in the nation, 18th in the nation, they're right behind us because they both are really good teams.
Nice. Chris Battaglia is our special guest. This is the original Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. We'll talk the NFL next. For over 25 years, Hillside Work Scholarship Connection has empowered youth to embrace their dreams of college and careers. Thanks to a dedicated staff and employment partners, every year Hillside helps more than 4,000 young men and women move closer to their life goals. The Buffalo Bills Quote of the Week was brought to you by the Rochester Geico Office. Give the Rochester Geico team a chance to see how much you could save on all your insurance needs. Call or stop by the office on West Henrietta Road, open Monday through Saturday. Johnny, it's Rex Ryan again. What do you think?
Well, number one, I mean, J.J. Watt almost has as many sacks as the Bills. Bills have, 15? Watt has 13 and a half. So they got to contend with him. Yeah, we're going to find out a lot about this team. Their season's on the line. If they lose, they go home. We'll see how they bounce back after losing 2 in a row. If they lose, the season is over, and then more Rex Venom for another week or so.
Another in a long line of defining games for this team. Thank you to Geico Rochester for our Quote of the Week. This portion of the original Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House, is brought to you by our friends at the Hillside family of agencies. Buffalo Bills. Houston, Mike, what do you see?
They better bounce back, and Rex needs to have a good week. And, look, we talked about the way Rex was going to coach this team this year. And I made the comparison to Marv Levy at the beginning of the year. My only reason to say that is because more of a CEO role, because I do think he has Dennis Thurman implementing what he's doing, making a lot of those calls. And obviously he hands the offense over to Greg Roman. But one of your main jobs is managing the clock and managing those challenges. And he did such a poor job last week. He let his team down. And defensively, they aren't what he promised fans they would be. And it's not just fans that are disappointed. The players have been disappointed too. He's not delivering on the part that he promised on. He needs a big bounce back week this week. Put his team in the best spot, do it at home, and they are banged up. I think they're going to be struggling this week.
The line is 3. Buffalo's favored.
I'm doing this because of what John just set up and said they have to win this game to stay alive. It has been their way that 1 week good, 1 week bad. I like him to win a close game. I think Sammy will be motivated again to play maybe like he did if they get him the ball more in the second half. And by the way, a quick thing on that. Don't tell me anything about coverages. Look at every catch he made in that first half. There were 2 guys on him every time, and he caught every ball. I think they'll win. I think it'll be a tight win. I'll say they cover the spread, but I think they're going to win by right around a field goal.
I'm with Mike. I reluctantly picked the Bills, only because their season is completely on the line. Houston has 1 guy, DeAndre Hopkins. The Bills may have 9 guys on him, yet they'll still find a way to get him the football. Bill O'Brien will get DeAndre Hopkins the football. But you lose to Alex Smith and Brian Hoyer in back-to-back weeks, it's going to be a rough final 4 games. I will take the Bills, although I think it's close. I think this is a game the Bills need to run the football. They need to just pound Shady McCoy and if Carlos Williams play. I think it's a big game for Shady McCoy. Right now, I think Watkins is their best player, but McCoy can at least – he needs to touch the football more than what he did on Sunday.
Coach, I'm rooting against teams that used to coach and maybe you haven't been in that spot. But is there anybody happier out there than Jim Schwartz these days? Last year's defensive coordinator?
I tell you, when you start a football team, you got to start with a great quarterback and a great offensive line, and I don't think the Bills have either. I think Houston's going to beat them because I think Bill O'Brien's a great coach, and I don't know what they're doing in Buffalo. I can't figure it out.
When you watch the Bills, do you coach them? Because you're a coach.
The funny thing is TV, I watch mostly the game. If I go to a game, I watch the secondary the whole game. I don't even watch the ball. But, I hope the Bills win because I really like them, but they just haven't done enough, and I think Bill O'Brien's a great coach. I think he's really good.
Very good. Okay, so you got Houston. You got a second game for us, Chris?
I just saw it, but I would say that I'm a Bears fan, so I want to pick the Bears to win no matter who they play. I think they're playing great. I think Fox is a great coach, and I think they're on a roll right now.
Mike's second game?
No.
It's the Eagles.
No, don't do it.
I am taking them in the points. And this is why.
Oh, man,
Brady's
you're crazy.
awesome, and Brady will be angry, but they're so banged up. I do think they're going to have a little hangover from that Denver game. And I think the Eagles were so embarrassed the last 2 weeks. Normally in the league, a team comes back. I think the whole chip thing has settled down for a week. I think they will play better. I think New England will win the game, but they're given 9.5 for 10.
So you're
I
taking
think
New England to lose to the Eagles, or
not lose the
points?
game. I'll
He's gonna
take the
cover.
points. I'm taking
Okay.
the 10.
All right.
10 points. But I think New England has looked. We know they've looked vulnerable. I mean, they should have lost to the Jets, should have lost to the Bills. But I think a little emotional hangover for them after that tough loss against Denver.
Can I
Give me
take
another
it? I had the Bears. I love the Bears to rout the Niners. Bears are laying 7, coming off 10 days after beating the Packers. I think I love Chicago almost from the get-go this year. I love what Fox and what Adam Gase are doing. I take the Bears over the Niners.
All right,
Niners stink.
And I'll take the Bills to bounce back. And it's just Carolina. Everybody's already all over Carolina. They're at New Orleans. New Orleans getting 7. I'll take the Saints. All right, so those are my 2 picks. Here are the standings of our picks. Mike Catalana leading the pack. Classy Wolf Media will be giving a $1,000 donation to the Hillside Family of Agencies in the name of the guy who finishes first. So far, it's Mike. This week's Hillside Family of Agencies NFL picks are being made by the Hillside Work Scholarship Connection at Gates Chili, led by Rod Green, who's the executive director. And they are picking Buffalo versus Houston this week, and their secondary NFL game of choice is the Eagles plus 9.5 points at New England. This portion of the Press Box brought to you by our friends at the Hillside Family of Agencies, and we'll be back. As we go to break, it is time for the Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning Trivia Question of the Week. When you're searching for a local heating and air conditioning contractor, look no further than one of the most reliable teams in the area at Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning. Is called Turnbull at 343-2005.
And you don't need to be Native American to realize it is offensive. And it's not politically correct. It's the right thing to do.
He was an idiot for throwing him that pitch. The guy's phenomenal. He had no reason to give him anything, especially a fastball to hit.
It's simply that these two guys, Ronaldo and Tom Brady, are too good looking.
I like it, just don't admit to it.
Everybody wants to hate on the best in the world. You know, he's here to stay, and he wants to build something big time.
The bottom line is, still nobody's going to like A-Rod.
As we come back from the break, time for the answer to the Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning Trivia Question of the Week. When you're searching for a local heating and air conditioning contractor, look no further than one of the most reliable teams in the area at Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning. Just call 343-2005. See New York in a whole new way. Amtrak is offering a 15% discount for all travel inside New York State and to Montreal. Visit Amtrak.com for the See New York discount. Safe, comfortable, affordable, and easy. Amtrak. Enjoy the journey. Welcome back. This is the original Rochester Press Box presented by the mighty Genesee Brew House. We are on location at the Brew House this week. This portion of the Press Box is brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Like it or not, Chris, the concussion protocol.
Well, I like it and I don't like it. I like it because I think it keeps kids safe and players safe. I have a son that plays and I want him to be safe. But I think it's really hard as a coach because if a kid gets hit wrong, you lose him for a long time and it really can become troublesome.
It's sort of mysterious to us. How does it work? What are they actually doing?
Well, for us, if a kid gets hit and he gets hurt, they take him off the field. In high school, if you get hit, you're not going back in. And then they have to pass a test, which they take at the beginning of the year, and if the frequency's right, and sometimes kids can't get through it. And we've lost kids in earlier years for a couple weeks because it's really hard, and then their parents think they're okay, so it's a real struggle.
It's getting tougher and tougher to avoid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a shame that Jeff Fisher doesn't know anything about this, right? I swear, I do think that's almost a fireable offense, how bad that was. How they did not see Case Keenum in such distress. Teammates, they have a guy up in the booth that's supposed to see that. It's the quarterback. It's not some obscure play. And to have all these rules in place and have that type of incompetence with Fisher and his coaching staff, I think is borderline criminal that guy went back in the game. You can have all the rules you want. You need help from the staff.
You've got players that have still got to be held accountable. I know there's those players out there that won't admit they have a concussion. they will not come forward.
But John, that was so obvious. He couldn't get up.
In Mike's case, Case Keenum was knocked out, but there are players playing with concussions.
There's kids I have that won't tell you
they don't want to lose their job.
Hey,
They're trained not to.
Oh yeah, I got to be honest. There's a lot of times we're like, okay, don't tell us your head's hurt. If you know, if you got a headache, make sure you're hurt before you say it.
Yeah, the whole idea by teaching between being hurt and being injured.
Yes,
Malcolm Jenkins of the Eagles basically admitted that he had it, and then he stayed in the game, and then he later came back and said, I shouldn't have done it. But you are hurting yourself in that case.
Johnny, like it or not, Austin Davis starting for the Browns.
Well, it's pretty clear Mike Pettin is done with Johnny Manziel, and I think it's apparent Jimmy Haslam, the owner, is. Because if Haslam wanted Manziel to play, he would have forced Pettin to play him, or he would have fired Mike Pettin. I think that organization is completely done with Manziel, and he needs to grow up, and he got to realize that there are consequences for your actions. He let that team down. He let his coach down. More importantly, let himself down. I got no problem. Let Austin Davis go out there and sling it. It's too bad Cleveland won't know, though, for sure if Manziel can play, but it doesn't matter. He will not be on the Browns next year.
Kind of matters. It's sort of like, cutting off your nose to spite your face not to use this guy.
It matters to me. I love Johnny Manziel. I love him. I love him because I just love the way he plays. I have a feeling he's going to end up somewhere else playing really good.
So it doesn't matter that he's not playing for the Browns this week?
Well, I think at some point you want to see him on the field, but he's done this to himself, obviously, especially this last incident. I think the Browns are cleaning house with everybody.
Yes.
Maybe Haslam decides, I'm going to keep Manziel and see the next guy come in. And by the way, anybody notice on Monday Night Football, a brutal game, how complimentary Gruden was of Jimmy Haslam and why? I don't want to start the Gruden thing, but
it's the worst owner in football.
But go in there and take over the whole operations. I could see Gruden
And at the
doing
same
that.
time, John was like, he said, you got to play Manziel. I want to see him out there. This portion of the original Rochester Press Box brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Unfinished Business is next. The Rochester Press Box Stat of the Week, brought to you by Cariglio's Pizza, with 5 locations serving the Rochester area. Visit carigliospizza.com today. Introducing Dunkin's new sweet black pepper bacon sandwich with double the slices of caramelized crispy pepper bacon. It is the bacon experience you've been waiting for. Bacon up! America runs on Dunkin'. Welcome back. This is the original Rochester Press Box on location at the mighty Genesee Brew House. This portion of the Press Box is brought to you by our friends at Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Unfinished business. John.
Back in the spring of 1996, I was working in Erie, Pennsylvania, had the privilege of covering the state high school basketball championship, Erie Cathedral Prep against a team called Lower Merion. I was only excited to cover the game because I got a chance to see Kobe Bryant. The only thing I knew about Kobe Bryant was that he was the son of Jelly Bean, Joe Bryant, a former Philadelphia 76er. And I think it's the only time where I can actually say where the performance outperformed or the performance exceeded the hype. I had heard so much about Kobe Bryant, this and that, and then to watch him up courtside blew me away. And we were talking during the game and after the game. That guy is going to be an incredible basketball player, maybe a top 10 guy of all time. And lo and behold, he turned out to be a top 10 player in the history of the NBA. Forget about the comparisons to Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant is his own kind of guy. A 9-time first-team all-defensive player. Yet he's had some off-the-court issues, his feud with Shaq. And then you had the legal battle what went on in Colorado. But you cannot deny one of the great scorers, one of the great defensive players of all time, intense competitor. And you know what? Thanks to him, they sold out the LA Staples Center 335 consecutive games. He had become, though he's not now, must-see TV. Kobe Bryant, a top 10 player of all time.
Erie Cathedral is the same school that was the football champion too?
You got it. Good basketball
Break
team.
this Catholic school up. Don't you?
Love them.
Chris Battaglia, what do you got for us?
Over the last couple of years, you've heard that football is in trouble because of kids getting injured and people not letting their children play. But I beg to differ with that opinion because over the last 2 months, I think we've seen in the last 2 months and a couple weeks that kids from Aquinas, Rush Henrietta, Victor, Pittsford, and Hilton have played games right down to the end, showing how much football means to kids throughout this county and throughout the state. I think football's in a good spot. I think it's in a good place when we can have so much debate about everything that's going on. And I think we're going to see it continue to be strong, especially in Section 5 in the area.
And congratulations once
Thank
again.
you.
All right, I'm going to go off of what John said, because he was talking about Kobe Bryant and his goodbye. And you're going to have a season-long thing with Kobe saying goodbye to the game, and he's nowhere near the player that he was, but he's going to get that send-off. And I'm comparing him to Tiger Woods. Now, Tiger just had a news conference the other day where he basically said everything from this point on is gravy. Tiger isn't Tiger anymore, and I don't know if he ever will be. But look at a comparison between the two. Both all-time greats. Both had their issues with infidelity, and in Tiger's case, that was a major story. With Kobe, it was the incident and whatever happened in Colorado that put him in the courthouse. But they were both also guys who took on immortals, Jack Nicklaus and certainly Michael Jordan. And neither of them quite reached that level, but they were all-time winners. But the difference is, Kobe's going to be celebrated in his final year of playing because he's on a team sport. He can go out, he can get the cheers. The Lakers are going to lose, and he'll get the send-off. It's not going to be pretty for Tiger. He's a shell of himself. He's in an individual game. He will miss cuts with the same type of effort that Kobe gets applauded and gets to wave goodbye. Tiger Woods isn't Tiger Woods anymore, and I don't think he ever will be. I think for his case, as opposed to Kobe, it's going to be a slow, sad goodbye.
It's been a big week for turning the page, hasn't it?
Yes.
This portion of the original Rochester Press Box Unfinished Business brought to you by our friends at Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. John, thank you once again. Great
Billy,
job.
Fantastic show. You moved the chains well today. You did a great job.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Great job.
It has been our pleasure. Chris Battaglia,
you,
thanks
guys.
for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us at the original Rochester Press Box presented by the mighty Genesee Brew House, which is where we are. We'll see you next week.